Good evening, America. I'm your host, Riker Dean, and what I'm about to lay out isn't hype, it's not a conspiracy theory, and it's not some viral rumor from social media. On January 15th, 2026, the Federal Reserve quietly rolled out an updated framework for bank reserve requirements that flips the script on how your deposits are handled. For commercial banks with over $50 billion in assets, think the big players like JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, the required reserve ratio has been slashed from 10% to just 3%. That means for every $100 you deposit into your checking or savings account, your bank now only has to keep $3 on hand as actual reserves. The remaining $97? It's free to be loaned out, invested in bonds, or used as collateral for all sorts of financial maneuvers. Your money isn't gathering dust in a vault anymore. It's being put to work, leveraged to the hilt, with a thinner safety net than ever before. This isn't a minor tweak. It's a 70% cut to the buffer that's supposed to shield you from bank failures and economic shocks. And it's already in effect. Let me be crystal clear. This change signals that the Fed is bracing for trouble ahead. By loosening these rules, they're giving banks more rope to extend credit, but at the cost of stability. In a nation built on innovation and risk-taking, we celebrate growth, but not when it puts everyday American savings at greater risk. Over the next few minutes, I'll break down exactly what reserve requirements are, why this shift is more critical than any rate cut or jobs report you'll see on the evening news, and most importantly, what it means for your bank accounts, your investments, and the hidden risks bubbling under our financial system. We'll look at the history, the mechanics, and 3 smart asymmetric strategies you can use right now to safeguard your wealth. This isn't about scaring you, it's about arming you with knowledge so you can thrive no matter what comes next. So turn off the distractions, grab a notepad if you need to, and let's dive in step by step. To understand why this matters, we have to start with the foundation of our banking system, fractional reserve banking. It's the engine that powers America's economy, but it's also a double-edged sword. In simple terms, banks don't keep all your deposited money locked away. They hold only a fraction in reserves and lend out the rest. This creates the money multiplier effect. Your $100 deposit becomes a loan to a small business, which pays a worker who deposits it elsewhere, and so on, expanding the money supply and fueling growth. It's why we've built the world's largest economy, from Silicon Valley startups to Midwest manufacturing. But here's the catch. It's built on trust. If everyone rushes to withdraw at once, the cash isn't there, because 97% of it is out in the world as loans or investments. That's where reserve requirements come in. They're the regulatory firewall, mandating that banks keep a certain percentage liquid, ready for withdrawals. For years, that was 10% for big banks, a cushion to handle everyday outflows or mild panics without collapsing. Now, with the cut to 3%, that cushion is razor thin. If you park $100,000 in a major bank, maybe your emergency fund or business payroll, only $3,000 needs to be on hand. The other $97,000 is deployed, lent to home buyers, invested in corporate bonds, or even used in complex derivatives. It's efficient for banks, boosting profits, but risky for you. In a crisis, those assets can lose value fast, turning your safe deposit into a claim on a shaky institution. Remember, your money is insured up to $250,000 per account by the FDIC, but anything above that, you're an unsecured creditor, last in line if things go south. And with our national debt topping $36 trillion, corporate borrowing at $13 trillion, and household debt nearing $18 trillion, the stage is set for stress. Much of this debt was taken on during near-zero rates. Now, with rates at 4 to 5%, refinancing is a killer. Companies and families are squeezed, defaults rise, and banks feel the pain. Why now? The Fed isn't easing because the economy's booming. It's pre-positioning for a liquidity squeeze. Our debt-fueled growth is hitting a wall. Higher servicing costs mean less spending, slower growth, lower taxes, and more strain on banks. Commercial real estate is a ticking bomb. Office vacancies at 20% nationwide, retail struggling with online shifts, multifamily hit by rising rates. Delinquency rates on commercial mortgages hit 6.8% in late 2025, the highest since 2014 per TREP data. Regional banks hold 70% of these loans. When they sour, losses mount. Over $1.5 trillion in CRE debt matures in 2026-2027. Many can't refinance without massive equity injections, leading to defaults and foreclosures. The Fed knows this, so instead of slashing rates, risking inflation revival, they're cutting reserves to unlock lending capacity. It's clever, but it amps up fragility, just like easing seatbelt laws during a storm. History screams warnings. Take the Great Depression. Inconsistent reserves in the 1920s left banks vulnerable. The 1929 crash sparked runs. Over 9,000 banks failed by 1933, erasing millions savings. The Fed failed as lender of last resort, deepening the misery. Response? The 1933 Banking Act created FDIC and standardized reserves for stability. Fast forward to the 1980s S&L crisis. Thrifts mismatched long-term loans with short-term deposits. Volcker's rate hikes crushed them. Over 1,000 failed, costing taxpayers $300 billion adjusted. Deregulation eroded buffers, echoing today. Then 2008, banks leveraged 30-to-1 on subprime. Housing bust triggered global meltdown. Bailouts saved the system, but Dodd-Frank aimed to thicken capital. Now, in 2026, we're unwinding that prudence amid higher risks. Debt GDP at 130%, unrealized bank losses at $650 billion per FDIC. It's eerie. Other signals? The Fed extended the Bank Term Funding Program, BTFP, to June 2026. Emergency liquidity for banks avoiding asset sales at losses. Regional bank stocks lagged the S&P by 15%. Credit spreads widen on junk bonds. The Fed stopped real-time monetary aggregate reporting, reducing transparency. Treasury shifting to short-term debt suppresses long yields but heightens rollover risk. Policymakers' tone? From soft landing to elevated risks. These aren't green lights, they're yellow warnings flashing red. So how do you position as an American investor? Here are 3 asymmetric plays, low downside, high upside, to navigate this. First, physical precious metals outside the system. Gold and silver have zero counterparty risk, no bank's balance sheet, no dilution. Central banks bought 1,000 plus tons in 2025. They're hedging what we should too. Aim for 10 to 20% of liquid assets in coins, bars, from reputable dealers like APMEX or JM Bullion. Store securely, home safe or allocated vaults. Asymmetry. In crisis, they soar. Otherwise, they preserve value against inflation. Second, high-quality distressed credit and deep value equities. When credit tightens, gems get sold cheap. Target recession-proof sectors: utilities, PG&E, consumer staples, Procter & Gamble, healthcare, Johnson & Johnson. Look for strong cash flows, low debt, dividends. ETFs like VTV, Value, or use screens on FinViz for PE under 15, debt equity below 0.5. Asymmetry. Buy at discounts. If no crash, steady returns. If yes, you own survivors cheap. Third, short duration, inflation-protected instruments and hard assets. TIPS via TIP ETF. Short-term corporates from AAA issuers, VCSH ETF. Hard assets. Farmland via FPI REITs, energy royalties, SBR, timber, CUT ETF. Avoid long bonds. Duration kills in rising rates. Asymmetry. Protects against inflation, debasement. Generates income without long lock risk. Actions now. Audit deposits. Spread over $250,000 FDIC limit across banks. Build metals position. Trim long duration exposure. Diversify jurisdictions. Offshore accounts. Cayman, Switzerland if high net worth. Trusts for asset protection. Comment. How does this change your banking habits? Subscribe. Bell on for updates. Share with family. Knowledge is power. Stay vigilant, America. Our financial freedom depends on it.